It's good to be with you folks, and I also want to welcome the folks out in television land here for Community Champions. We're taping this segment for television as well. I'm joined in the studios by a very special guest, Chris Hammond, former Major League Baseball star with the Atlanta Braves, who started his career with the Cincinnati Reds, by the way, my team, and ended his career with the Cincinnati Reds. Chris, it's great to have you in the studio today talking about three of the great things that I love. We're talking about God, we're talking about baseball, we're talking about kids.
And I'm right there with you. Those three right there have a really big part of my life. But one thing I want to kind of like correct you on,
Yes.
I was not a star.
Yes. No. Absolutely, you were a star.
Far from it. I mean, I'm kind of glad. Just like we were talking in the studio earlier, hanging out with Tom Glavine and John Smoltz and all those guys. Those were the stars, and I wouldn't. To me, I'm glad where I'm at because those guys get hounded all the time, and I mean, I know they have a lot more money than me. But I don't know if that was worth it.
Well, I tell you what, we'll call you the fireman because
That's right.
you had to come in and save a lot of those games that were in danger along the way that helped lead them to their historic careers.
Yeah, I mean it was an awesome feeling to hear a Tom Glavine and a Greg Maddux pitch 5 innings, especially when they were making that chase for the
Yes.
300 wins,
Yep.
and both of them both said to the newspaper that with the bullpen that we have out there, I only need to pitch 5 innings. I'm like, man, I just
That's
get the chill
dynamite.
bumps.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So we had a great year that year.
And you know the neat thing about that too is it had to be a lot of pressure because just to get to the major leagues, first of all, I mean it's probably, I don't know what the percentage is of baseball players that play at every level, but to get to the major leagues is probably less than 3%,
Yeah, it's
1%. I mean, to get to that level, you're a star because any player and every player in the major leagues to me is a star. They're playing at the top of the level beyond any echelon that we could even imagine as a baseball player.
it is. It's amazing, especially when I look at my life in little league to high school to college to thankfulness being drafted by the Cincinnati Reds, and because I struggled through high school. My parents really wasn't there for me to motivate me to study and do my homework and to help me and I struggled through high school and really struggled through college and when Cincinnati drafted me as a pitcher and gave me $500, I'm like, you're gonna pay me?
Wow.
I mean, you just where do I sign? And I just feel that in our day and time, so many guys get the $2 million, $3 million to sign, and that just takes away the motivation.
Right.
I mean, if you give somebody $1,000 to play baseball, and they don't have anything in the bank, they're going to give you 110%. And I just that's just my personal opinion that
Well, you're making them millionaires at that moment.
yeah,
You know.
I mean it takes away the motivation.
Well,
And
obviously you were well motivated.
yeah, I got $500 to sign,
Yes.
and
You
and
went
I
out there
just
and
told
worked.
I told myself that they're not going to send me home because I didn't work harder than everybody else, and I was the first guy a bit ahead of the first round draft picks and the second round draft picks, and they were all on the phone going, I thought I was supposed to be, and to me, results are a lot better than a signing bonus.
Absolutely, Chris. So, that's the neat thing about it. Obviously, the person who signed you, they're sitting in great because here's a guy we got him in for $500. Came in, beat out so many
Mm-hmm.
of all the others who signed the big bonuses, and you ended up becoming a great player. Regardless, I'm gonna say great because you were the toughest to me. One of the hardest positions there are in baseball. I've pitched and I've been a relief pitcher, but the hardest thing is come in when the game's on the line and all the pressure. at that point, not starting the game, but stepping to the toe and putting your toe on the rubber when the rubber meets the road on the game line, especially when you got a 300 game winner and you're sitting there and you say, you know what, or getting close, and you said, man, I better not lose this game because Motzi, when I go in there, this could be a bad night for me. I know there had to be a lot of terrible pressure, but you came through it and did well.
I think it really helped me because I was a starting pitcher the first 7 years of my career, and then I retired for 2.5 years.
Really? Now that's an amazing story right there.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But when I came back, my agent said that the quickest way to get a second chance, everybody needs lefties out of the bullpen, and
Yeah.
I'm like, let's do it. So, I mean, as a veteran coming back to be in the bullpen, it really helped me out a lot because I've already established myself. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't. I got to get my job. I mean, I'm playing for my kids to see me on the field. And when I give up a home run, 2 home runs in an outing, my kids were like, Dad, did you see how far that ball hit? You gave up. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Man, he caught all of that one. You
So
know,
it just, I mean, I wasn't pitching for results. I was pitching for my kids to just see Dad out on the field, and it was so easy to put that last outing behind me and just go out there and have fun again.
for love of the game.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
And Chris, I apologize because I do remember you coming in as a starting pitcher, being a Cincinnati Red fan, and but when you retired after 7 years, just I guess, and then to come back, I get that had to be, like you said, it was a different feeling all the way around, and quite an impact. 7 teams you played on, so you got the chance to see this country in a uniform, and every night everybody showing up to say, "Wow, we're here to take a break from life and be entertained." You're an entertainer.
Oh, yeah, it was, and as me pitching with Cincinnati and the Marlins, and then the Red Sox before I retired the first time, I always told myself, I do not want to play in New York, and I sure don't want to go out on the West Coast. I mean, I'm a Southern boy. I love being around here in the South, and when I went back to playing again, the Atlanta Braves, they said, we don't care how hard you throw. You get guys out, we want you on our team. So they signed me. I had the best year that I could ever ask for, and that's when the New York Yankees called my agent, and they're like, we want to sign Chris for 2 years, this amount of millions of dollars. I'm like, we're going to play for the New York
Yes,
Yankees.
we're going to play for the Yankees. I love the Yankees.
I knew I said I never wanted to play in New York, but and then after New York, I signed with Oakland and San Diego. I'm like, never say never.
Never say never.
But those 3 years right there, I mean, playing with the New York Yankees. I mean, after every game, my 2 boys came in the clubhouse, and my 4-year-old, he didn't know who Derek Jeter was.
Right.
But when he came in the clubhouse, he always picked out somebody's locker to go in, and he picked out Derek Jeter.
Oh,
So I'm
no.
like, and I'm sitting over in my locker looking over at Derek Jeter coming out of the shower with his towel on and everything. He's like, Jake, what you doing, buddy? And giving him a high five. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I mean, and just everything that went on with that year. It was no fun, but it was a great experience.
Right.
And that was just stepping stone to my kids really getting spoiled with the game, because we went to Oakland after that, which was not anything close to New York, and then San Diego, which really wasn't an exciting year, and they just started losing the fun of Major League Baseball, and it's hard to believe. And that's where I started thinking about retirement, because I'm like, if they're not going to come watch me play, I'm not going to sit out in the bullpen and pitch at 40 years old,
Right.
and miss their childhood.
Wow.
So,
Well, Chris, we're going to take a short break. We're glad you folks could join us out there in Radio Land. Again, bringing you the best of Calhoun County and beyond. I'll be right back with Chris Hammond right here on WDNG AM 1450. The It is an amazing career. I do remember because you were there, of course, when the Reds they were heading. What year did you sign with them?
My first year, they won the World Series.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Wasn't it 1990
90s,
that
yeah.
you came in
That's my first
and to
year.
go to the World Series your first year?
Yeah.
I mean, Rod Dibble. Here comes the Nasty Boys
Oh, I know.
coming in behind you.
Yeah. I remember in '91, I pitched. Remember when Dibble threw the ball into the stands?
Yes.
I was pitching that game.
Wow.
I pitched 7 innings, and he came in and he gave up. We were up when we were winning by 3. He gave up a 2-run homer, and I was the next day in the paper. I wanted to give him a high five, and he's like this, throwing the ball into the stands and hit that lady.
Yeah. It was.
Okay.
Yeah. She wasn't expecting that. I can tell you.
But the most amazing thing that I saw again, we were in Houston, 7 innings I pitched. Dibble comes in for the save, strikes out 6 guys in a row.
Wow.
And I mean, that's when he was throwing 102.
Oh man, that was
101,
amazing.
Sliders. I'm just like,
I hope you guys don't mind. I'm gonna play Sweet Caroline for the Boston team.
No, that'll be fine, dear.
It's his baseball.
7th inning stretch. Yeah.
Yeah. And 2, all the proceeds from the use of that song is going back to helping folks in Boston.
Right.
I heard that.
Yeah. Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond, yeah.
Yep.
I'm a huge Neil Diamond fan. So.
But that's an amazing story because I mean, think about this. You sign for $500. You go on, and now you're on the World Series team. I mean, your first year out the door, you're a national champion, world champion. I mean, it just doesn't hardly go any better your first year out and come through, and to go through all those things are pretty amazing. And then somewhere, and you know what? That's exactly right what the agent was talking about, because back in those days, I love baseball. I hardly ever get to watch the game the way I used to. It has changed so much, and I don't know. The players just seem like we recruited so many people from so many different places that I just like to look at and see some of our homegrown talent get a chance to play instead of chasing people from all over the world. You know, that's the one thing. And I'm not any disrespect to anyone. It's just this is America's pastime, and I like to see us enjoying that great pastime.
But you never see like just like this year with the Braves. It has a good chance of being a whole new team next year.
Right. Oh yes.
There's no. You're going to have the same team for 10 years,
Right.
and you can
Right.
you can go ahead and get so and so's jersey because he'll be here for a long time.
Right.
No, that's not going to happen.
It's 18 minutes after 11 on Community Talk here with me, Charlotte Ford Gossip, running things, and Eddie the Rock Reese, our host.
It's good to be back with you, Charlene, and good to be back with all you folks. Certainly great to be with you folks out there tuned in tonight for the Community Champions. I'm with Chris Hammond, and you know, one of the things, Chris, that you and I were talking as we went away from break for radio, of course, here for television, about your first year in baseball.
Excuse me, Mr. Reese, we're on radio, not TV.
No, we're on television, dear. This has been filmed for Community Champions,
Okay, I'm sorry.
so that's all right. So, again, we were talking your first year in baseball. Of course, you came in was with the Cincinnati Reds in 1990, won the World Championship. And so the guys that were actually, when you were the starter coming in to relieve you, were Rob Dibble, Nasty Boys themselves, and we were just talking about one of the incidents there about how he came in Houston and struck out 6 in a row. And there, from your saying of being a starter, it had to be amazing. Man, you're in there pumped up because, man, he's just saved the game for you, and he did it throwing 102 to 104 miles an hour sliders, and it was pretty nasty.
Well, back then, I mean, watching Rob Dibble in the few years that he just dominated, because I just found out when you're throwing that hard, you can't do that for many years.
Right. No.
And when just like we were talking, I pitched 7 innings in Houston, and he came in and struck out 6 guys in a row, I'm not serious. I mean, I'm not kidding. I don't even know if anybody even touched the ball.
Probably not. Probably barely saw it.
And do you know, like when in the movie Bull Durham, when that guy was kind of wild and struggling,
Yes.
and the pitching coach goes, throw one at his head, or throw one at the mascot.
Yes.
Going, and they hit the mascot, and he's like acting like he didn't mean to do it.
Right.
That's like Rob Dibble. I mean, he would throw one behind a guy, and then bam, 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 and I mean, he just had that reputation of you just never knew.
Right.
And that's why, I mean, throwing 102 miles an hour, if I got in there, I'd be scared to death.
Yes.
Go ahead and strike me out so I can go back to the bench.
Absolutely.
But that was just an amazing feeling to be a starting pitcher coming up in my first few years and having a bullpen like we had.
And also to be a world champion. I mean, that's a ring. That's something that your first year out, and then there's still so many players that have not had the joy of knowing what it's like to be able to be a world champion, and you did it your first season out.
Yeah, I mean,
and a big contributor to that. Let's face it. I mean, you were a starting pitcher, and you came in, and you were, and again, had been a Cincinnati Red fan. It's like almost one of my concussion moments. I said, how could I forget that Chris was the starting pitcher there in the '90s? That's almost like hard to forgive me, Chris. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. It's so many things that I look back on my career and just shake my head, and I'm just like, there's no way I did that. But it's just a true blessing to be part of that in my life, and I really think that throughout my life, I mean, just like we were talking in our Bible study last night, that God prepares your life ahead of time, but 99% of us choose not to follow it.
Right. The courage to do and follow the plan that's there, and I and that is the great thing, is that obviously there was a tremendous plan for your life, and the courage to step out. And that's one of the things that we would like to do today. If you're listening to this program, we want to encourage you and to remind you that there is only one you for all time. It is never too late to be what you might have been, and especially, most of all, when you allow Christ to be in your life and to be following Him. He's got a plan for your life, and it's obvious that He had a great plan for Chris Hammond, and what you were doing in sports, and certainly what you've taken from sports, because I could sit here as a baseball fan all day long and love to listen to the stories that you could tell, like John Rocker down in Wedowee fishing with you just the other day. You've got so many stories that we could listen to and be just entertained because you were there. As I told you before, for the average baseball fan, just to be around the players is just an awe-inspiring thing. But that was you. You were there. You were around them, and to you, I know there's some that probably stand out that you were in awe of course. And I'm sure you just mentioned one of them a while ago. Tom Glavine was a great guy. I had a neat experience with Tom Glavine. The first time I ever worked with ESPN Super Crew, came over and didn't know what I was gonna be doing with these guys, but I was running radar behind home plate. But I met John. I was out in the parking lot where the players come in, and when he came in, I was walking down there. It was a beautiful October day, and they were in the playoffs playing St. Louis, and I was going down the fence telling all the fans what a beautiful day for baseball. And I looked up, and there's Tom Glavine walking beside me signing balls, and so I was taking the balls, handing it to him, and the next thing I knew, later that day, here I was, the guy who started, one of the 6 founders of ESPN, called me into his office, and all the guys around me said, "You're fired. You were talking to the players." Instead, he put me behind home plate with radar. God gave me a perfect opportunity, and there was Tom Glavine pitching. It was just a very, very neat moment that I didn't expect to have happen to me. Next thing I knew, when I did any work with them or Fox, I was always with the Access, and one time I was coming through there, my son happened to be born 100 years to the day of Babe Ruth. So I wanted to have his name to be Babe. Well, working one of these games, here comes Hank Aaron through the tunnel. I'm down through the tunnel, and here comes Hank Aaron, and should never do this, so if you're out there, don't ever do this. I had him sign a baseball. You're not supposed to do that if you work with any of these folks. You would know that for sure. But I said, "You're the only guy that broke Babe Ruth's record." And he signed to the Babe, Hank Aaron. And it was the greatest moment for me to give that to my son, and but there for you to come back and play the sport the second time for the love of the game, for your children, to have them be a part of it. I know it was just an awe-inspiring thing for your teammates as well, because for them to look over and see Chris Hammond over there and his children running around Derek Jeter, and all of a sudden they realized there is more to this game. There's a lot more. So I bet, Chris, whether you realized it or not, you inspired so many people with bringing your family and getting them involved.
Yeah, I believe I did, and the more I think about it, um, it's almost like young guys and old guys alike would come to me behind the scenes and thank me for being the person and the dad and the teammate that they want to be. And but it's just so in our world today, peer pressure and keeping up the image that me and John Rocker talked about the other day, that is destroying our world. I mean, there's no good fathers anymore. I mean, a dad would rather buy their kid a PlayStation or an Xbox than spend time with him. Let's go fishing. I don't have time, but you have time to go play golf with 4 or 5 hours without your family.
Right.
And I'm just telling you. I mean, in our world today, dads, moms, families, there's no togetherness anymore. And but the sad thing about it, the Bible predicted this over 2,000 years ago when God spoke the Bible into writing. And that's what empowers me every day to. I mean, I see how many people are lost in our day and time, and I'm gonna do something about it.
And you are. There's no doubt about it. And that's one of the reasons why, Chris, and we're going to have to take a short break. But when we come back from break, one of the main reasons why we're here today is great because you played baseball, but it's even better what you're doing today. Folks, we'll be back after this message from our sponsors on WDNG AM 1450. I'm Eddie Reese.
I'm here with Eddie Wheeler, General Manager.
I am so sorry.
That's all right.
Eddie, tell us
Are
what's
you
going on
kidding
this
me?
month. Is Sunday
Yeah.
Football?
Yes, that's all right. They'll have this little voice over here that we'll edit out. But no, we're not on television. Yes, we are on television. And
I was so absorbed in all this that I forgot.
and that's good. You don't have to think about the camera. But you know, it is an amazing, and it's true. We could sit here. I could have you for a week, and you tell Major League stories, and people will just be enthralled.
Yeah.
I mean, because they love that. I mean, we can't get enough. But you know, it's a longing for the fan, and to be able to understand and what you as a player, we're living it through you for that moment when you're sharing and talking with us, and some of those stories, some of our heroes that were on the gridiron, you were right there next to them. You were one of them.
You know what's really fun? I mean, amazing. Alabama Umpires Association.
Yes.
They wanted me to speak, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? Because some people come in and tell about stories, umpires, and this and that, this and that. So I had 2 sheets of paper. I was going to tell about some funny, stupid umpire stories. And then the other time, I was going to tell them about who's changed my life. And when I got up there, I couldn't speak. I mean, my whole body was hot. And I'm just like,
There's two in Anniston, one on Highway 202, the other on North Noble Street, Highway 431 in Alexandria, Highway 202
I go,
in Bynum,
you know what?
and Pelham Road South in Jacksonville. Thank you for shopping at
I have a
Food
sheet
Outlet.
right here that has
School, family, and the social
umpire
life.
stories,
You find it hard to keep up with the news?
some stupid stuff that I did to umpires.
Happenings affect you and your family? Well, tune into your news talk.
I can't even say a word.
Fridays at 5 p.m. for
I mean, I'm trying to talk about those stories, and I have a sheet right here where
You'll also hear exclusive news stories not
who's changed my life, and the importance of what my life is defined by.
Right.
And I go, I can easily talk about this.
Right.
It don't seem like God wants me to talk about this.
Right.
I mean, sure, we could sit around and laugh and but is that important?
Right.
And then I just like, I ain't gonna talk about this. I mean, some of you might not like that,
Right.
but this stuff right here ain't gonna get us to heaven.
Right.
And I just threw it down. And I mean, but
Right.
same way,
Right.
we could sit here and talk about baseball stories, and it would attract so
Right.
many people. But if you start talking about Jesus Christ, people run.
Right. And I think that's where God gave you this tremendous career. It's a platform. And when these people are listening, God always has a way of showing up.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's just this strong sense that I feel, you know, when I'm listening and then all of a sudden I can, same way with what I do, all of a sudden I can start talking to a certain subject, and you can see it in their eyes. You can see them going different directions or different things. You know, I mean, at that point where you are, I start talking about the other things, I see them coming back. So then one day I just started praying. And then it's just like the Lord said, you know, I'm sending you into the dens of thieves. I'm sending you into the dens of them, not to separate them, not to scatter them, but I gave you all that I gave you, all of this armor, all of these things you have to protect you when you go into the places you're going. I gave you the presence of the tools and the gifts so that I could captivate them, but I will appear inside of the message at the right moment to reach each one of them, and it will pierce their heart like a weapon. But he works through us differently. I mean, he works through every one of his servants in a different way. But that's where I found for me, wasn't playing a politician and telling them what they wanted to hear, but sharing what God had done for me in ways that mattered. That they would be, wow, really, that happened? You actually did this? You worked with ESPN? For the average guy, I was a sports fan that walked right into it. I was talking to Chris Berman, Bobby Cox, and next thing Chris said, hey, this guy's got a great idea about us doing a sports getaway show.
I was talking to the Georgia Senator in the last tournament I played in, over in Carrollton, Georgia, Douglasville.
Hey guys.
Okay.
It's 11:33 on Community Talk, and from the Community Talk Weather Center, the forecast for today: sunny with a high of near 66. For tonight, mostly clear with a low of 43. And for Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 74. Currently downtown Anniston, we've got 59 degrees, and now back to
Back
the Rock
and Chris Hammond, good to be with you wherever you're tuned in today out there in television. We're glad to be able to welcome you in today to Community Champions. Here for you folks on radio, it's the best of Calhoun County and beyond, talking with former Major League Baseball star with my favorite teams, Atlanta Braves, Cincinnati Reds, and Chris. We went away from break talking a few baseball stories and sharing with the folks, and like I said, we could sit here for days and you could share and enlighten us to so many wonderful things that have happened to you in career. And I know you, the listeners out there, would love that, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get with Chris and hear a lot of that in the days ahead. But we're here today to talk about a great event that took place this past Monday for a great cause. We're talking about your charity golf tournament that you do to raise money and awareness for your foundation for the youth. And again, we want to thank each and every one of you that had a chance to come out and play in this, be a part of this, and I know Chris will certainly share that with you in just a second. But again, Chris, and in addition to that, you know, we're just here also as a lighthouse, as a way of shining the light on why we're here, and that we're here because God has given us the opportunity to do what we do, and we want to share that with you folks out there, and to be bold for Christ and to stand up for, you know, what's right in your heart, because Lord knows I've made so many mistakes and have failed at everything I ever did even though I succeeded at every earthly level, I was failing at everything else. But it's been around godly men like you and the Boys Callahans and other people that I've brought onto part of our team here at the station, sharing your stories, your visions, and your love.
Yeah, I mean, I really believe that the reason I'm so adamant about helping youth because God put me in Wadally, Alabama 20 years ago, and it really opened my eyes to the lack of pretty much everything that the kids in rural areas are missing, and that's why I started the Chris Hammond Youth Foundation, not to glorify me, because it's all in if you're willing to follow the path that God has in store for each one of us.
Right.
I mean, you're going to become a servant. You're going to come to the point where you love people, not to get anything from them, because Jesus Christ is living His life through you.
Right.
And that's where the Chris Hammond Youth Foundation came in, and he showed me that kids in rural areas need help in really every aspect of life, and with this past weekend and all the people that God's bringing and brought to our foundation, I mean, we're going to be able to help so many people, so many kids, and hopefully helping them experience life.
And you know, Chris, it's a wonderful thing, because the most precious resource that we have in this country is our young people. And you know, without that great resource and without a great foundation for them to be able, they're the seeds of our future. And without having a great place to put those seeds, and this is what this foundation is all about. It's a place for these good seeds to go as a cornerstone, and going across and doing this in the rural areas and inspiring these young people with what you're doing, and letting them know that there is a place, and that their life is important, and that they are important, and that and I'm just so tickled to death for what you're doing. But I know this past Sunday and Monday, it was a tremendous opportunity for you to come in and see some of the people that maybe you don't get to see all the time, because they're traveling all over the place doing different things. But they turn out for you when you pick up the phone and you call and said, hey, we've got this tournament, we've got some things, can you come? If you don't mind, let's share just a few of these people that you had came in to be a part of this with you.
That's what just blows my mind, and I, every time I think about it, it's almost like I want to pat myself on the back because of the type player that I was. I mean, there's so many big superstars that in the big picture, when if they would have called Tom Glavine or John Smoltz, you kind of envision in your mind what kind of person that person really is. Does he really want me to come, or what? But I mean, each time that I called John Smoltz and Tom Glavine and Brian Jordan and a number of other people that played with the Braves, I mean, their first response is, you can always count on me. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. I mean, Tom Glavine and John Smoltz came over this past Monday and played in my golf tournament. And I go, I mean, that's just another reason that I know that my foundation is a good cause. I mean, and because those two guys right there are really down to earth, and they're there to help out any good cause, and I'm just proud to have them on board as a celebrity in my golf tournament.
Well, you know, they are great guys, and one of the things I'm absolutely sure of is getting to know you better over the past few meetings we've had, conversations we've had, is that your heart. You see, these stars, like you said, there's no telling how many appearances, their agents, how many calls they're getting from everywhere. But see, they know Chris Hammond's heart. and they know that your heart and where your head is and what you're doing is something that they believe in, something that they can, they're stakeholders in this with you, and that's what we, for you folks out there listening today and that's watching the show tonight on Community Champions, the great thing is the power to make a difference, it rests within each of us. And what you've been able to do is light the way for these guys to see with your heart and the way you're living your life. They want to be teammates with you. And so do we. You know, we want to be a teammate with you in this great foundation, this great cause. And we just want to encourage every one of our listeners and viewers that we all can do something today for a young person, you know, and to, if you're a parent, if you're out there listening to this show, I think Chris said it best. You know, it's so easy to try to entertain our children with things. The best thing that they could ever have is you. The best thing they could ever do is spend time with you. And so I think that's why they come, Chris. They know your heart.
Yeah, and we did a Bible study last year, and this what really it really helped me challenge myself, and then challenged really anybody that I come in contact with. And the Bible study was not a fan. The book was not a fan. The Bible study was not a fan. And then in the nutshell of the book, when Jesus says, "If you want to follow me, you must die to yourself." I mean, and that's the hardest in our world today, about your best life now, or you need to look out for number one. That's not what Jesus expects out of us. And most people out there listening and watching, they don't want to hear that.
Right.
They don't want to give. But Jesus says, if you want to follow me, you must die to your selfish desires. And in our day and time, I don't see too many big people doing that. And that's why our youth are struggling. Our youth are being pushed to the side and given a PlayStation or Xbox to get them out of the way, and there's no more family anymore.
Well, Chris, you're speaking to the choir. I've been right there as one of those parents. And trust me, it's the hardest thing in my life to know that I failed. And so, but it's also a blessing that I know the Lord, that I can sit here and say that, because it was really knowing that I could be honest with myself, look at the guy in the mirror and say, I failed, but I may have failed in their life, but it's still not too late for me to succeed in someone else's, and to be a part of their life today. But that's the great thing when I met you, is that challenge. I mean, it jumped right out at you, and I loved it. But we're going to have to take a break. You stay right where you are, and we'll be back again with Chris Hammond, Eddie Reese, Charlene Fuller-Gossett, with more right here on the best of Calhoun County. It is an amazing journey, an amazing time, and you know, I could literally sit here all day and write a book about all the things that the devil can give you and open for your life, and every single way, and the whole time. But the greatest thing I can tell you is that I belong to the Lord. No matter what no matter what, I am His servant, and I will always be His servant. And but it's finding men like you that inspire me, because you know, I cannot tell you right here, gosh, Chris, I go out here every day and I do certain things, but being around folks like you, Boyce Callahan, started April 1st, surrounding myself with people like that, because that was what I needed. You know, I've been given a great calling and a great gift, but putting the right team and getting focused and refocused was very important to me.
Yeah, and one of the things that really opened my eyes to most people are doing it the wrong way is when I read the book Left Behind, the Left Behind series, and it really challenged me, because the preacher was left behind.
Right.
And I'm like, so I mean, you can speak it, you can surround yourself with so many good people, church people.
Right. Right.
I mean, if we get raptured today,
Right.
are you going to go?
Right.
I mean, only Jesus knows. Only God knows.
Right.
I mean, you can fool us three. You can fool me. But if the rapture goes, we might be gone and you might be still here. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Right.
Are you following Jesus?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, you gotta make sure your heart's in the right place.
yeah. I mean, that's why the Bible says you need to die daily. You don't just die whenever you feel like it.
Right.
Or
You don't
whenever it's
just follow.
convenient.
Yeah. If your high school buddies come in here and they want to go out, you're like,
It's
Let's
a
go.
it's a
Right.
relationship.
yeah.
Absolutely, brother. Hey, I know. You look in these eyes.
I know.
They traveled.
But I mean,
Yeah.
just like when you're following
Yeah.
Jesus,
Yes.
you're doing His work.
Yep.
You're speaking it out. I mean,
Right.
it's like you're hearing the same
Oh
stuff.
yes. That's where.
Don't be like that preacher and you're preaching it. And
Right.
you ain't.
Oh, trust me. When I'm hearing it, it comes when it comes from the Holy Spirit when He's speaking, because He lives in you. When He comes out, and it's like I'm sitting here. This is for me.
Yeah, it
You
ain't
know what I
me
mean?
speaking.
Right. This ain't me speaking.
I mean,
It wasn't me who
I'm
wrote
listening
CS
to you.
in. I'm listening. I said, you got my attention. I hear
I
this.
know.
Yeah,
You
it's
got that
awesome.
right.
Yeah. But that's the most awesome thing when the
That's the
Spirit's-
mystery of the gospel.
Yeah.
That you can't. Not everybody can understand.
No.
Guys. It's 11:46 here at News Talk 1450 WDNG on Community Talk. I'm Charlene Fuller Gossett, and back to Mr. Eddie Reese. And
Chris Hammond.
Yes.
Good to be back with you, wonderful folks out there. Glad you could tune in, and certainly as you're on your way to lunch today, want to encourage you again to stop by and see our wonderful local businesses, which I know you will, especially stopping in up there at the wonderful folks down at the Red Pepper Grill and also our wonderful folks at Red Lobster. But again, it's great to be with Chris Hammond today. We're sharing a few of the, if you just tuned in, Chris Hammond, the former Major League Baseball player, starting with my Cincinnati Reds in '90, coming back there and finishing with them in between, playing some great years with some Hall of Fame players, and that's another great thing is, but having an outstanding career of being able to take his gifts and talents, but coming from the major leagues, coming back into life with a tremendous mission, and that mission is to reach into the rural areas of not only where he's living, but and beyond. And that, folks, is made possible by other people that become stakeholders into this great foundation, into our greatest resource, and that is our young people. Chris, this has been a calling for you. It's been a mission for you, and it's one that anyone who knows you or that gets to know you, they know first it's God, then it's the mission of saving people, and then it's reaching out to our young people to inspire them to become who they can become and the great gifts they have.
That's what I found out. I mean, when you start following Jesus Christ, I mean, you start loving everybody.
Isn't that, yeah, it ain't great.
And it's just like we were talking in our Sunday school and our Bible study this past week, is the tragedy of how many times we walk by that guy on the street that's hurting, and we just shake our head like, get a job, or here's $1. Don't ask me to talk to somebody, because in our big picture, we're getting back to my, well, I do my Facebook every morning. I do my Bible study on Facebook every morning. So if anybody
Let's
out there,
get that out there, yeah.
so if anybody out there wants to be challenged in their faith, look up Chris Hammond on Facebook. But I do my Facebook post every morning, and it's about talking, and I found that people, and I challenged myself, because I went 6 months 2 years ago, and I wanted to see how many times I heard somebody talking about Jesus Christ in my everyday living. I didn't hear anybody other than in a curse. I mean, in a negative way.
Right.
Like when somebody hits their hammer, their thumb on it with a hammer or something. Jesus Christ. I mean, other than at church, I didn't hear anybody. And I just feel like we're moving in the wrong direction. But to challenge everybody out there today, the Bible predicted this, that we would in 2 Timothy 4:3 and 4, in the last days, people will no longer listen to sound and wholesome teaching. They will live their lives for their own selfish desires. They will seek teachers who will tell them whatever they want to hear. They will reject the truth and chase after myths. Does that define who you are?
Absolutely. Seems to be the world today.
Yeah.
That we're living in.
But in the big picture, I look at my 18 years of professional baseball, and if God was not preparing my life, I mean, I've so many schools and churches and youth groups and organizations, they find out that I played with the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees and the Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds, and they're like, man, can you come speak to our group?
Yep.
But if it was just the Florida Marlins for half a year or something, they're like, well, we're going to get Todd Jones. But he's prepared my platform and my message, and it's just powerful. I mean, I'd shake my head going, me? But it could be you,
right?
Or you. What is your message?
And that I think that's where we were coming from just a moment ago. It is, he put you into those places, and probably, Chris, you would have never imagined having gotten there again until you believe in following. You know, you signed $500. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And let's look at that. Back even in those days, there's guys getting a whole lot more than that. So you take $500, then the guy says, you know, what have we got to lose? Here's $500. Hey, here's one of the starting pitchers of the 1990 world champion Cincinnati Reds. Here's a guy who's come in and saved games for Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, before he became a relief pitcher. Also, Greg Maddux. God was definitely putting you in a place to where you are today. Still such a young man with such a great vision, with such a great heart, and now living a second career. It's not even a career, it's a mission, it's a life purpose.
And that's why every day I challenge what I hear from other people, that they're like, what are you doing this for? Why don't you go hang out at the country club? Why don't you get massages and go to Mexico or Hawaii on trips? And I'm just like, what for? That stuff don't change people's lives. And that's why the Chris Hammond Youth Foundation is sole purpose is to help kids enjoy having a chance to live and go to college and maybe be the next president of the United States.
Or the next Chris Hammond.
But if the Chris Hammond Youth Foundation and hopefully many other organizations that helps out kids that have been left behind, they won't have a chance. I mean, if you guys want to go to the Chris Hammond Youth Foundation website, it's hammondfoundation.org, and I mean that tells all the information. It gives you all the information, and if you guys, I mean, I'll have lunch with anybody that wants to sit down and talk about my foundation and how they might want to be a part of it. To me, you can't have too many people on board.
Absolutely, and left behind. That's something me and you were talking about.
That's right.
Folks, we don't want to leave, not one of you. We don't want to have anyone left behind. So as you're listening to the message today, there is a way, and that way is through Jesus Christ. And he has a gift, he has a talent for you, and he's lighting the way, and he's speaking today through us. But there are those of you out there that are inspiring others. We want to be an inspiration to you, and this foundation is making the difference. It already has, and it will continue. So if you're out there you'd like to get involved in this, and don't do so because Chris is a major leaguer, a former major leaguer, or this is a star. Do it for the right reason, and that is because you care about the children too, and that's why I love Chris Hammond, because he's doing it because he loves the kids.
Oh yeah, yeah, and if you, and like I said, if you want to help out, call me, call the radio station. They got my number. I'll talk to anybody, and that's why my lifestyle is such a powerful witness, because I'm not going to turn my back on anybody. I mean from the millionaire to the guy that's in jail. I mean, and that's what keeps challenging to me, because I mean, when I go to a jail and talk to the guys there, I mean, those are the guys that want to listen.
Right. Oh, yes.
And then when I go to talk to the Major League Baseball team, those are the guys that don't want to listen, because they got it.
Got it all.
I mean, and the Bible says, money, riches. I mean, it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than I mean, it's sad, and I've seen it on both sides of the coin. Don't let your God allow your lifestyle to be thrown in jail or poverty or losing everything you got to get your attention.
Wow.
And for
What a
for a
statement.
lot of people, it's going to take that. Come have lunch with me. Come have lunch with me, and let's talk about how we can challenge your lifestyle. And if you want to be a part of the Chris Hammond Youth Foundation, we'll talk about that too.
Chris, you certainly have been such an inspiration for so many. And today it's been a great opportunity and a blessed opportunity for us here at WDNG and me personally to be here with you, to spend time with you, to have prayer with you before the show, and today. And we hear you. And we're going to do something about it. And hopefully for you folks out there, you can continue to reach out to our young people and make a difference. Chris, again, thank you for everything you do. I'm looking forward to having you back.
I can't wait.
But now I'm looking forward for you and I know that you're going to be there, and I'm going to see you there. But we've got a golfing event that's going to be taking place on May the 17th over there for the wonderful folks at UCP. And I'm excited about that. And so, again, you'll have a chance to see Chris there, and I'm sure you'll see him out in the community around here making a difference, standing out as a lighthouse, and that you are. Thank you again for being with us.
Amen. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris
Thank you,
Hammond.
Eddie.
All right, folks, we're going to be headed into the top of the hour here in some national news. Rusty Burroughs will be joining us with Fishing Alabama and Beyond. And again, he's got a special guest with him that we'll be sharing with you. We talk about making a difference in a young person's life. Well, right on cue, we have a young person coming in next, sharing how someone's made a difference in his life. We'll be right back here on WDNG with the best of Calhoun County and beyond with Eddie Reese.